All right. Hi, everyone. We are here for the Artober Nashville Social Media Fundraising for the Arts webinar. Thank you to Catherine Bennett with the Big Payback and Community Foundation of Middle Tennessee and Emily Wortham with Poverty in the Arts. Thank y'all for being here.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks, Erin.
Yeah, so let's open this up, and if you'll talk about kind of what you do with your organization, and we'll start with Catherine.
Yeah, as Erin mentioned, I also work at the Community Foundation. My primary role is to manage our givingmatters.com initiative, which if you're a nonprofit, then you probably have a profile on the Giving Matters site. And I also work with the Big Payback on helping our local nonprofits get ready for our annual Giving Day.
And Emily?
And I'm Emily. I am the program coordinator for Poverty and the Arts. We're a nonprofit social enterprise that serves people who have been impacted by homelessness. So we provide a variety of creative resources like a studio and a gallery with the end goal of enhancing quality of life through access to artistic resources.
Wonderful. So both of you are very good at what you do. You also are, involved in social media, or you're familiar with fundraising efforts that other organizations are doing on social media. So I kind of want to talk through some trends that maybe you're seeing with other organizations or yourself, and maybe kind of some different platforms that organizations are using to fundraise currently.
Catherine, do you want to go first?
Sure, I'll start us off. I mean, just on a personal level and like seeing, what worked with the Big Payback and what has worked the last few years, I feel like Instagram has really grown to become this incredible storytelling and fundraising platform. Because you can create a post that is informative and people will share it, something that will evoke emotion or have some kind of sense of urgency and cause people to want to either share it to their story or click through and learn more, swipe up, like whatever the goal of the post is. I feel like there's just such great engagement. Facebook, since all of this started with, companies or organizations having an online presence, I feel like, they've always been the go-to. It's a great way to share information. They have the great fundraising pages now, which are really helpful. But I feel like the last couple years, and especially these last few months during the pandemic, just seeing so much happening on Instagram. Poverty in the Arts has become one of my favorite Instagram accounts to follow. I've engaged with, I feel like, the organization so much because of the Instagram content, and that is happening with so many great organizations across the board.
So just to kind of piggyback on that, I think just to share specifically what we've been trying to do, I'm not sure it speaks to an overall trend, but we've been trying to really focus on Instagram for similar reasons like what you were explaining. It's very visually oriented. There's a lot of storytelling happening, and that fits perfectly with our arts organization. And so we've decided to really put all of our efforts into Instagram and Facebook. We do use Hootsuite to schedule everything so that it's consistent and cohesive as possible. But so the people running our social media, it's just me and one other person, our executive director, Nicole. And so we recognize that there's only so much we can do. So we try to really focus our efforts and not overextend ourselves. So that's the two main platforms that we use.
Absolutely. I'm actually, if you're okay with it, I'm going to go ahead and kind of share with everyone your Instagram page, and you can kind of elaborate a little bit on, what you guys have been doing. Because Catherine was the one that was like, oh, you should reach out to Poverty in the Arts.
Oh, awesome.
You're doing some amazing stuff over there. And so,
thank you. Just to share a little bit of vulnerability, sometimes we feel like we really don't know what we're doing. We're just doing the best that we can. And so I really appreciate that feedback, that it's catching someone's eye. So
I mean, I think that is a huge part of being successful with social media, is not being afraid to just try something and see if it sticks. If you like hold back and get shy and just like make really general posts over and over again, you're not going to build a community that way. But if you try something new, worst case scenario is it doesn't do well, and then you try something else.
Yeah, so it's definitely a test trial sometimes, just looking at our insights and seeing what's getting the most clicks and what's not. And I think there's a lot of value in that. Just kind of owning, if you don't know what you're doing, it's okay to test out some things. And especially if you don't have a full-time social media manager, just kind of gaining inspiration from other pages and seeing what works for your platform. So
yeah, so it looks like you guys are doing your own shipping and
yes.
And so I take it some of these are actual pieces of art that you're selling too.
Yep, exactly right. So one thing we've been trying to test is, well, we know for sure that people connect with storytelling. So no matter what, on each post, we try to connect something back to the artist, and our artists deserve for their story to be heard. And so Kateri, her story can be found on our website. More about, she was the first artist who was a part of poverty and the arts. And so we love talking about her. And this is a piece that is still available for sale. If anybody wants to check out our website, I guess I'll make that little plug. But storytelling, and then since Instagram is so image-based, people have seemed to really respond to seeing the artwork. So
yeah, it's beautiful. Like I love your Instagram page, and I
yeah.
love this story too.
Yes. This
So
is a really good example of a storytelling version.
yeah, and so that's her. That's
That's Kateri.
yeah.
Yeah, so I won't run too much into this, but just a little bit about Kateri. The story talks more about it that you can, again, find on our Instagram page, but she's gone from being homeless to having a home and now owning her own vehicle, which was just an incredible success story. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about this later, but just wanted to encourage everyone, since we're really inundated with terrible news these days, it's a really refreshing for people to see successes and be a part of the happy news, because it still is out there, even though there's a lot of hard things happening right now.
Yeah. So
and I mean, your feed has like happy news and beautiful art. I mean, like what more?
Yeah, I will say
right now.
Yeah, our artists make it really easy on us too, to just repost their work. They do a lot of it for us. So.
Yeah.
Well, and you have an actual like shop art button on once you go, and so you can see all of the work here. Have you guys been able to use that fundraising feature that Instagram has now? I don't know if it's available to everybody. You know how they have like support a restaurant, or they have the donate one now available too.
I don't think we've tried that yet, or haven't had access to it. We're still trying to, there's several features that we don't have access to because we don't have 10,000 followers yet.
Yeah.
So that, I'm really thankful for you sharing our page, because we're trying to hit that 10,000 follower mark so that we can have access. For example, the swipe up feature, we don't have access to that yet. So any shout outs y'all can help us with is super helpful to get to that.
Of course.
Totally.
For sure. I'm going to go ahead and get out of stop sharing so we can kind of talk a little bit more. So one other thing I wanted to talk about was, Giving Day. So that's another way that a lot of people are fundraising. A lot of those happen online. And I know Catherine has experience, running our local Giving Day, which is the Big Payback. But then I want to hear about Giving Tuesday opportunities too. So we'll start with Catherine.
I mean, community is powerful, and we have learned that for sure this year, because we're all missing our communities that we've built for ourselves, and we've had to find new ways to like engage with the things that we love and the people that we love. And a Giving Day is a really great way to engage with your community, rally around things that are inspiring, that are important, that are beneficial. And you don't have to be in person. Like we saw firsthand this year, you don't have to have an in-person fundraising event to have that community-driven, successful fundraiser. Like it can all happen online. We have these tools that are available for us, and people crave that. I mean, like, I know I feel good, like when the like momentum and the excitement of the big payback was happening, and I like was able to, you know, donate to several nonprofits that I really love, and then check out and then like see the leaderboard jump around. Like there's excitement in that. There's that feel good moment, which is something that everyone loves. So I think that's great. And just I used the word momentum before. I mean, you know, you should be fundraising all throughout the year, but having a time that's set aside where the focus is on giving is really valuable and something that I think you shouldn't miss out on. So whether it's the big payback or Giving Tuesday, or if it's Artober, I mean, there's a conversation happening already that you can plug into that has an audience that you don't have to necessarily create yourself. So you can focus on having the content that stands out and makes people want to click through without having to also try to get people's attention. So I think it's like anytime an opportunity like that comes around, it's worth taking advantage of.
Now, Emily, did y'all participate in any giving days, like in addition to the big payback? Because I know y'all participated in that.
Yeah, so nothing in addition to the big payback. We were just thrilled with the success this year from the big payback. We had a huge increase in the amount that we raised. We went from the previous year raising $1,800 or just a little under that. This year we jumped up to $5,000. And so we were just thrilled with that outcome. And I think, like Catherine was saying, it was a part of that momentum of the current culture of things. But we were really excited about that. And I think it showed us the potential of virtual events versus in person. So rather than like previous years, we had spent a lot of energy on trying to get people to come to a live in-person event. And that was where most of the energy went, was invitations to this in-person event and pushing that. And there's just so much competition in such a fun city when normally there's things happening every night of the week. It's really hard to compete. And so we saw that shifting our energy to the virtual experience this year was way more successful. I'll be interested to see how it goes next year too. But with Giving Tuesday, for example, we've typically chosen not to funnel a lot of energy into that because like Catherine was mentioning too, our local community is so bought into supporting local organizations with the big payback, and that has benefited us greatly. Whereas with Giving Tuesday, a little nonprofit like us, we're trying to compete with like the Red Cross and Salvation Army, and we don't see a lot of traction on those bigger giving days. So we're really thankful for the local buy-in on big payback.
Good. That's really good to hear, because I know that like with us at the Community Foundation, Now Playing Nashville, we've tried to fundraise during Giving Tuesday, but then also we tried this last time. What was it called, Catherine? That was that happened in May as kind of like a...
So Giving Tuesday this year, they added a spring giving event to try to, I think, just help the country and the world and like the nonprofits worldwide that needed that support. And so it just so happened to fall right before the big payback this year. So I think Giving Tuesday was the 5th of May, and then the big payback was happening the 6th and 7th. So we ended up having 3 days of giving for our community all right there together.
Well, and that was amazing. Like, I think that that worked for us because we had people give directly to Now Playing Nashville through our online giving, because that's where we directed them to go, was to this specific page. And so during that like giving day, National Giving Day, prior to the big payback, they gave through there. And so we saw little trickles of, you know, money come through there, as well as the money that we raised for the big payback, which was incredible. Like, I think it just tied in so nicely together this year as far as
totally
fundraising goes. So what would you say, like the percentage of fundraising for your organization is made online? Specifically, like I know the big payback is this year was everything was online. What would you say, Emily?
Well, it's kind of a twofold answer. I would say more than 50% of our donors are connecting with us online. And at the same time, if someone decides to write a check, it's typically for a much larger amount. So we're engaging with like smaller monthly donors on a regular basis online, and our larger amount donors are connecting with us in different ways. And then this year with COVID-19, like typically we have our fundraiser in February, which thankfully we were able to still have our gala right before all the COVID craziness hit. So we were very grateful for that, because we know a lot of nonprofits had to cancel theirs. This coming year in February, we're having a completely virtual event with all the safety concerns continuing and closures continuing. So this coming year, all of our donations and interactions will be online for the most part.
That's wonderful. It's great to kind of see the shift of everything. And that kind of ties in nicely with my previous conversation, which was about how to host a virtual event and how, a lot of people have had to adapt, during this time. It's kind of like we were forced into really learning all this technology, but also in bettering our organizations too. I kind of feel like,
Yeah.
Definitely.
I think arts organizations have had the most, I don't want to say the most difficult pivot, because like everyone has had to pivot and like everyone has had their own challenges, but I think arts organizations have had to be especially innovative in the way that they pivot, because you can't have a like big production right now. There aren't the art crawls, there aren't the galas with the silent auctions, and all of those things that create revenue generally for an arts organization are completely off the table. And I will just brag on Poverty in the Arts again. I love how you guys just released that interactive gallery.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh, it's so cool. I
Thank you.
am just so impressed with the use of technology and the way that, like, I feel like you guys will be able to do so much with that.
Thank you.
And
I was really excited about it. So I was like jumping up and down. I was like, I can't believe technology can do this. And so I'm really glad that everyone else thinks it's as cool as I think it is. So
it's
Yeah.
so realistic, because I had like clicked through one of your Instagram posts, bought some art one day, and then I came to pick it up at the studio and got like a little tour and got to see it in person. And then it was like a couple weeks later, there was this virtual gallery that I could look at online, and I was like, oh my gosh, it really is just like being there.
that's awesome. Will you remind me which piece you bought?
I bought a greeting card and then this really neat little thing that's like oven mitts, but then also something that you could put a hot dish on.
Right. That's right. That's awesome. We've been really thankful for an increase in online sales. I mean, I guess that ties in a little bit to our fundraising, but we just, with everybody being home and doing online shopping, we're thankful to be a part of a lot of that shopping. So
yeah, it's wonderful. I mean, it's wonderful to see everyone actually like supporting local businesses. And so we've kind of talked through, what you've done different as far as dealing with COVID and kind of the gallery and different things that you're doing specifically, Emily. What are some ways that you would say Poverty in the Arts has had success with social media fundraising overall?
Well, I wanted to just share, we've had a lot of success in a couple of different ways. So I thought I might share some strategies rather than, well, I wonder if for people watching, if it would be helpful to know what the strategy was behind the success so that they can kind of run with it. So one of the strategies, like we mentioned earlier, was storytelling. As much as you can infuse that into your post, I think it's extremely helpful. People want to know, especially if it's a nonprofit, who they're supporting, and some of the stories behind what's happening. So I would definitely recommend storytelling. The post that we looked at together when you were screen sharing, where Kateri is standing by her car holding the piece of art, we posted that, and the piece that she's holding sold within 30 minutes. So with that storytelling component, I think it's really engaging, and people understand, like, when I buy this piece of art, it's helping her pay for gas for that car. So I just want to encourage that strategy. Another strategy we've really utilized in social media fundraising is partnering with people who really know what they're doing. I really appreciate all the props that you guys are giving us, but we also have a team of volunteers behind us that have given their time, expertise, and resources to give us some data that helps us direct what we're doing on social media. So for example, we had a group of Vanderbilt students who did extensive research into who our customer is and what they want to see. And so if that's ever possible with a volunteer group, I would highly recommend finding a group that can do that research for you. I'm sorry, I hope this dinging is not messing up our recording.
No. Hey, it's new time.
Part of it. It's the life we're living, right? So for example, that Vanderbilt group was able to tell us that our typical customer purchase a piece of art, and they also overlap in our donor category. So we know to really target that audience of people who have incomes to not only purchase art, but also are engaging and making donations. So that was really helpful feedback. One other success that we've had is just putting out direct asks on our social media. So I just wanted to also encourage everybody, rather than, if you're just focusing your energy on finding new donors, maybe consider what direct ask you can put out there. So for example, we were running out of storage. Catherine, I'm sure you saw our building is not that big. And so we were running out of storage space. And so we put out on social media that we needed some help with climate controlled storage. And within the next few days, we had a 10-foot by 10-foot storage unit donated for free to us by Life Storage downtown. So that's another strategy and success that we've had, is just ask for what you need. And we have such a giving community. Somebody's going to come through. So
those are all really great strategies.
They are. And that's really cool that you worked with Vanderbilt students on that they were able to actually, give you some great feedback and some ideas and things. Which program was that through?
Oh, I'll have to try to pull it up again. I was just looking at, they were very.
Was it through the business school?
Say it one more time.
Through the business school, Owen graduate school?
I'm blanking. If y'all will stall for a second, I can pull up this.
Okay.
I was just so
That's a great resource, because I know that Owen Graduate School, and I may be speaking, out of turn here on a different area, but Owen typically has nonprofits, and that their students, their graduate students, kind of take in and then they work on a project. And so that's a great way for a nonprofit or a new startup business to, get other feedback. And I believe we were a part of a Belmont a graduate class too, back in the day.
We're really lucky to have so many really knowledgeable and talented students in our community that through their internships and programs are just offering their time. And of course, I can't find the name.
Don't worry about it.
If anybody out there watching is really wondering, I'd be happy to connect you later today.
Yeah. So Catherine, what have you noticed other organizations doing as far as social media fundraising?
I mean, I think Emily really hit the nail on the head. The storytelling and the engaging, dynamic, interesting content is so important. I feel like right now what you see a lot of are people trying to almost create these grassroots movements and kind of they're trying to build momentum on their own social media feeds and build community there in their little space, and so in content that's shareable and that is informative or engaging is so powerful. And I think being really direct with your ask too, in like the way that you phrase your ask, and maybe not all of your asks are necessarily just for monetary donations, is a great way to be successful online as well, because it's going to get a lot of eyes on your feed. Something else that that I think is huge for online fundraising, and something that we saw a lot of success with in the Big Payback this year, is peer-to-peer fundraising. You can do this right through your organization's Facebook page. You can also do it through your organization's Giving Matters profile if you do have a profile set up for your organization. And so, you know, you can, if you don't know what I mean by peer-to-peer fundraising, it's if I wanted to create a page because I'm really excited about poverty in the arts, or I'm really excited about Now Playing Nashville, then I could build my own fundraising page to say, I'm, you know, trying to raise $1,000 for this organization. They're really important to me, and here's why, or here's why I volunteer, or here's why I'm on the board. And then I can share that with my network. So I can go on my Facebook, my Instagram, my email contact list, whatever, and send it out. And that is a really great way to increase who's engaging with your content, and who's possibly clicking through to donate. We want to help our friends and our network. I mean, I think that is something that we have seen, especially since Facebook started offering that feature. It's something that I think has almost become part of our online culture now, is you're going to learn about which causes your friends and family are interested in, and they're probably going to ask you to donate to like a birthday fundraiser or a Giving Tuesday fundraiser, or whatever the circumstance is. And, you know, I think Artober could be a really great time to take advantage of you know, a feature like that, because there's that momentum happening. There's that time when we're going to be focusing on the arts for a whole month. So why not like encourage the friends of your organization to want to share that passion that they have with their networks?
Absolutely. Well, and that's a great segue too, because, you know, one of the things, Artober can be used for social media. While we're not the Big Payback, but it's a time for arts organizations. Take to your own websites, take to your own donor bases, to your own constituents, because it doesn't necessarily have to be a nonprofit too, because some arts organizations are not, you know, they might be a for-profit gallery. But let's go to your website. Let's go to your social media platforms. Let's encourage people to support you during this time frame and support your organization, because, you know, it's not just arts, even though we love to promote the arts during Artober. It is humanities too. So it's language and history, you know, it's and literature, and, you know, but those are art to me too. I feel like they kind of are, you know, but
yeah, they move the culture forward.
Yeah, but we like to put the emphasis on visual and music and theater and dance too. So, but this is the opportunity. Oftentimes, and what Catherine kind of said, is some websites have the capability for that peer-to-peer fundraising as well. I've actually seen it on a couple of new website themes that are available in WordPress on Theme Forest. And so that's a great tool for nonprofits to use, but it's also a great tool for for-profits to use, because you can create your own store and then people can support you. Or if they're an artist, you can have the artist actually create a peer-to-peer fundraising campaign to support the gallery during that time frame.
That's awesome. I feel like having that as like a WordPress capability really makes it accessible.
Yeah, it's a cool new feature that I saw on a nonprofit themed WordPress. So
that's cool.
Super exciting to kind of come across that information. So if both of you can share like one tip or best practice for other organizations who are interested in social media fundraising, what would you say to them?
I'm happy to.
Emily, do you want to go first?
Sure. So one thing that we're really committing to right now is accessibility in our social media. We recognize how important this is to recruit more diverse donors. And so we are doing our very best right now to include image descriptions every single time, and include captioning and videos. Those are just some small examples. But we recognize the need for more diverse donors, and we don't want to assume that just because a certain demographic has not been donating that they don't want to or they can't donate. We just want to make sure that anyone who wants to invest in POVA or in poverty in the arts, anyone who wants to invest should have access and the opportunity to the information for how to donate. And so just wanted to mention that as a best practice. This is something that we're still learning a whole lot about, and just researching on best practices in that area, but just wanted to take the opportunity to encourage infusing accessibility as much as you can.
Wonderful.
That's awesome advice.
Yes, and that ties into our theme too of inclusion for Artober, which is this year's theme. So it's important that you guys are focusing on that too. I know a lot of organizations are trying to take a look at everything a little bit deeper.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, well, and just because someone maybe hasn't been a donor doesn't mean, or like maybe can't be a donor right now, doesn't mean that they wouldn't be in the future. So if you're like reaching them where they are right now and they've had this positive experience engaging with you, then maybe one day they would want to volunteer their time or volunteer through, you know, a donation of money or whatever.
Yeah, I completely agree. Catherine, do you have one tip or best practice you'd like to share?
I would say don't be afraid to put yourself out there. Don't be afraid to try something new. You know, I think in the old times before the pandemic, there was a lot of noise and a lot of competition in terms of things to do and getting people to come to your event. But now you're breaking through a lot of noise online because everyone has had to go virtual and everyone has had to increase their social media presence. So, you know, try to find ways to stand out and create content that is engaging. Presentation is key. You're all artists. You don't need to be told that by me, who's not really an artist. But, you know, I think anything you can do to try to put yourself out there and engage with folks and make an ask of, you know, whatever that need is, it's important to do.
Perfect. Well, thank you guys both for being on here. I really appreciate your feedback, and I know that it will be helpful to Artober Nashville organization. So thank you both for your time today, and I hope y'all have a wonderful weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you, Erin.